Hey guys, David here. Welcome back to the DGR podcast. I hope you're all doing well. This is episode number 107. I'm going to do a solo pod for you guys today. Hopefully, we will have guests back soon, but I actually think I have one or two good ones lined up for you. But for now, we'll keep rolling with the solo pod. I have three questions to answer. Number one is tips for programming rehab when you're short on time, which everyone in the rehab space is short on time, because you have clients coming in, you have to send them plans and stuff like that. It is tricky. So I hopefully will have a good answer for you there. Number two, do you think doing ground-based work is the best way to restore mobility? Ground-based work meaning like lying on your back, lying on your side, lying on your front, etc. As the demands of gravity are reduced and people can relax more. Good question. Number three, this was a person in my DMs asking, basically they had a lot of lower back pain for a long time and they had tried a lot of stuff for the back, and then they did our foot program and they were talking about how almost instantly when they started working on the pronation supination work and kind of delaying knee extension, and basically if you want to just put it like working on their legs more, helped just reduce so much tension in their back, and within like a couple of weeks her back pain was gone completely. And that's an interesting topic that we can only theorize around why that might happen, but after years of trying back stuff that basically didn't help at all, trying leg stuff helped. So I might theorize a little bit around why that might have happened, even though there's no right or perfect answer there. I would say there's definitely wrong answers for that, but I'll try and give a good answer at least. So I'm a little bit sinusy today. For you, those of you watching on YouTube, you'll see that my right eye is puffy. This happens to me like once or twice a year, which maybe more sometimes, which I don't know why it happens, but it also coincides with me feeling like even when I close my eyes there, it just feels like there's pressure there behind like my upper nose. I was going to say my proximal nose there. I don't. Does that apply? No, it wouldn't even be proximal, would it? I don't know. My superior nose, the bridge of my nose, the top of my nose, back there between my eyes, which I have quite a decent bridge there. Like it's not a small part, but that feels all puffy all there and into my forehead and stuff like that. So it actually feels like there's like just fluid trapped around there. So maybe I don't know. I don't know why it happens, and I don't know how to fix it other than it just takes time. But I think I need to get outside and get a few walks in and stuff like that and just get things moving. So why did I even say that? I don't know. Oh yeah, I may or may not answer all the questions depending on how I'm feeling. I'm also a little bit short on time because we're filming new program. Our HIP program is coming out soon in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so stay tuned for that. It's going to be in the same format as our foot program. In the foot program, if you've got it, you'll see the 4 phases of work. It builds up, and I think people found that incredibly helpful, or I know they found it incredibly helpful, both for working on themselves and also for working with their clients and understanding how to kind of go step by step with clients and progress them from restoring mobility back to kind of more isolated strength, integrated strength, kind of dynamic movement, and plyometrics. And we will structure the HIP program in the same way. Speaking of programming, so the first question: tips for programming rehab when you're short on time. So everyone is short on time. Coaches, physios, they're all short on time, but this is a more of a therapist's point of view, because a strength and conditioning coach will be writing a full program, let's say like 3 days a week program, 4 days a week program. This question from this person was more about like, okay, if I'm going to give someone 2 to 5 exercises to do for their homework before they come in next week, it's that kind of a question. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but obviously if you have 5 to 10 clients a day, or some people have more than that, then that can be a lot of little programming to do. And you want to make sure that, one, it's time efficient, and two, it's effective for the person. So what we do is we program a lot. We program a lot of sequences. First of all, if I take a step back, we send for anyone that we're working with that with that in mind, that type of programming where we're just doing a consultation, sending you a few exercises, we'll send them an email after the session. Here's an email. Here's your plan. Do this 2 days a week. Do this 2 days a week. Do this 1 day a week, or maybe do this sequence, or follow this every single day, but just add in these exercises twice a week, something like that, whatever that might be. For more and more, we have moved towards getting people on for a minimum of 12 weeks. You'll have seen me talk about that on Instagram, in emails and stuff like that, maybe, where we get people to sign up for 12 weeks of coaching with our coaches. Actually, here's a good time to mention, if you're at least half of them are coaches and therapists that sign up, to be honest, maybe more, maybe like 60-70%, because they have their own issues, as we all do, and also to get to learn so much about our system along the way when you're working with one of our coaches or one of our physios. And it's unbelievably effective. When you sign up for 12 weeks with us, we'll give you everything, and it's unbelievably effective. But when we sign up for someone like that, we actually set them up on our app and program everything for them. So it's not where we program out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or however many days that that we've agreed that they are going to work on. But let's stick with the more kind of idea of answering this question around you're short on time, and it's like an email that you're going to send someone. First of all, have your videos ready. Have an exercise spreadsheet ready that you have filled out with YouTube videos, either your own YouTube videos ideally, or YouTube videos that you've collected that are good videos from me or other people on YouTube, or a mix and match where, okay, I like this squat video, I like this pelvic tilt video, I like this scissor slide video, I like this pronation supination video, and just have them all there in an exercise spreadsheet that are hyperlinked, that are very easy for you to access. That's number one. Sit down. It will take you a few hours to do that, but really important. Even better than that would be filming your own ones, or at least having some of your own ones. That would be good, but not essential. But better than, good, but not essential. Secondly, we film or we crop together sequences, and we program sequences all of the time. This means that the email can have one link in it with one name in it. So it's just let's say a spine mobility sequence, and prone breathing sequence, hip hinge sequence, hip supine breathing sequence, shoulder strength sequence, wrist mobility sequence. And what these sequences usually are 3 to 5 exercises cropped together. It doesn't mean that the video is 20 minutes long. It's just a short video. Sometimes we don't even have explanations for it. Here's an example. Medicine ball sequence. Because I programmed this for someone yesterday. So medicine ball sequence, this has how many exercises? One, it's a standing medicine ball slam. You stand up, you bring the medicine ball up over your head, and you slam it down into the floor. That's one exercise. Second one, you stand up, you have the medicine ball to the outside of your right hip. You do kind of this rainbow over your head, and you slam it down the outside of your left hip, and you kind of turn in the air as you do that, and you kind of do a mini little squat down into it as you slam. That's the second exercise, but you have to do that on each side, where you reach from your left hip to your right hip. That's the second exercise in the sequence. The third exercise is standing facing a wall in like a kickstand position. Left foot is forward. Your weight is on your left foot. You bring the ball to the outside of your left hip, and you throw it against the wall. You obviously need to do that with your right foot forward. So that's the third exercise in the sequence. And then the fourth exercise in that particular sequence is a kneeling medicine ball throw, like a soccer throw. You're kneeling down, ball goes back over your head, you slam it against the wall. So there's 4 exercises. So what I would say is do 4, or what I said yesterday, not the reps and sets and all that stuff can change, but what I'll say is do 4 reps of this of each exercise in this sequence, one after the other, like take a few seconds in between, and then take a rest after the the round and complete 2 to 3 rounds of this. There's your medicine ball sequence. So you actually have one video in that. It just goes from one to the next, and then the notes is 4 reps of each exercise, complete 2 to 3 rounds with a rest after each round. That's one thing. If you were using that's one thing that you can put into an email. Or actually, this does apply to the S&C type of programming as well, by the way, because actually this was an S&C program that still a rehab program, but with a full programming thing. But the medicine ball throw sequence, that particular one was in that program that I designed yesterday. And that's just, they were doing a warm-up, they were doing a few bits, straight into the medicine ball sequence. And it's programmed as a sequence. It's not programmed as 5 different medicine ball exercises that I have to type in each of the 5 and put in sets and reps. I just have medicine ball sequence, and they click that and they follow the sequence. So we have sequences for all parts of the body. You can actually see one particular sequence or half of one sequence, I think, on our YouTube. If you go in and type in, let me check. I think it's called anterior expansion sequence. Let me just double check. Because what you'll see is that they're on our YouTube, we have a lot of unlisted videos that you can't see. And that is me working with a client, anterior expansion sequence. Yeah, it's actually called opening the chest and abs, in brackets, anterior expansion sequence. And that's 3 minutes long. And you'll see me coaching a little sequence where it just goes from one position to the next. There's just some breathing, some pelvic tilts, and then some arm spirals. And if I was to play the rest of that sequence, you would see us turning over into a prone position and doing some breathing there, and then doing something else from there. So that's a good example of, I have that sequence. If someone is like super duper tight at the front of their body, their chest wall, their sternum is down, their rectus is very tight or more posterior tilted, that's a sequence that I'll be able to send them, and they can just follow that very easily. It'll take 3 to 5 minutes. And I don't need to program 5 exercises together. So we have the same with the ankle. We have the same with like a big toe sequence, a shoulder sequence, a neck sequence. So what I would say, to make it very easy for yourself and actually easy for your clients to just follow along with one link, is start to program more sequences for people. We have hinge sequences, squat sequences, we have a quad pump sequence. So I've said sequence like 1,000 times now, but that's what I would say there. That would make it very easy for you to just copy in that into an email for your clients. And if you start to email your clients with videos and a little plan, they are much more like, their adherence goes up by like 500% if you do that, rather than just writing down the name of the exercise. And how their execution goes up as well. Question 2. Do you think ground-based work is the best way to restore mobility? So lying on your back, like I just said there, we're doing a breathing sequence in supine, moving into prone, blah, blah, blah. To restore mobility as the demands of gravity are reduced. So basically when we're standing up, we have to fight gravity to not fall down. But when we're already down, we don't have to do that so much. So muscles can relax more. As the demands of gravity are reduced and people can relax. Yes and no. So the big feature, or the big pro of lying down on the floor, is that people can relax. Actually, no, I would argue something else. One of the pros is that people can relax more when they lie down. But this is also the bug. It's the con of the exercise, is that people are lying down. So the pro of it is, okay, you're going to lie down. You don't need as much muscular tension because you're not trying to manage your center of mass in standing. You'll see people that stand up and they are very compressed through the backside of their body, either the back of the rib cage, the back of the pelvis, or both. And what that does is, where the compression is, it's going to push you forward in the other direction. So if you squeeze your shoulder blades together, you will feel your body moving forward in space. So there's a lot of muscular tension and muscular, I'll just say tension, shortening actually. Yeah, a lot of tight muscles. Let's put it that way. Not long and tight, like short and tight. Actually, I don't even want to get into those words because there's so much bullshit around those words. Just yeah, where that compression is going to push you in the other direction. So if someone is very tight around the back of their body, it's going to be pushing them forward, and when they're being pushed forward, there's this, like, I'm not as balanced, I'm not as stacked up, I'm not as aligned on top of my midfoot. So that's going to create even more tension because now muscles on the front of my body have to start to kind of fight that, and it's just this fight. And what you'll see actually in the Chinese internal martial arts world and all this, like, people think about this kind of stacking thing and alignment thing being a new kind of phenomenon that physios have brought in to nocebo people. But actually, like, go back thousands and thousands of years, the Taoist arts, the Chinese internal martial arts, like, they talk about alignment and actually and letting go of so much tension. And you'll see that they do standing practices where they stand there for an hour with their knees soft, and they're quite balanced on the middle of their foot, and they're doing different movements with their hands. And it's a lot of it is about alignment without forcing alignment, without tucking my pelvis, or without it's just trying to relax into a position and letting the muscles hang off the bones. And what you'll see when you meet those people is a lot of them actually have very relaxed bodies. They're very strong, they're very kind of aligned, they have really nice long spines, and that's not an accident. It's practice. And there's a lot to be said for being able to find your balance point in a nice way. It's never going to be perfect. There will always be oscillations, but being able to find your balance point in a nice way, and being able to let go, and your muscles kind of melt away from there. So if you can't find that alignment, and your brain always feels like you're falling over in some direction when you're standing up and when you're walking, you're going to have a lot of muscular tension layered on top. And that's what I struggled so much with when I was doing those standing exercises and those slow moving exercises when I was training that in that style for a while. Like, my body was just really tense. It was fighting me every single step of the way. It was very difficult to just stand there and relax and let go and breathe. Like, it was incredibly painful for me to do that. And that's my alignment. Just I had to kind of force myself into that position, and that just wasn't particularly helpful. So if we take those people to the ground, in theory they can relax and let go. And that's where I really like to work on breath work, pelvic tilts, scissor slides, arm spirals. You can do cat-cow type of movements in all fours. You can do knees side to side movements. You can do all of these nice positions and movements when you lie on the floor without quite as much muscular tension. Muscles are squeezers, and people think about muscles giving us movement back. Like, what muscle do I need to activate to get more range of motion? I think about it almost as the opposite. Like, what muscle do you need to let go of? Because if you stand up and you let go of all your tension, your bones will move, you will flex, you will drop down, you will squat down and crumble like a bag of bones. So bones will move. Muscles are actually holding you up and almost fighting that movement a lot of the time. So when we lie down, we can get that movement back because we can relax. But the problem is, tight people will find a way to stay tight. So if you just think about, okay, I'm going to lie someone on their back and do a pelvic tilt. And the fact that this is a thought process that I see everywhere now with the kind of PRI and the compression expansion stuff. Like, okay, I lie them down and they do breathing and it reduces the demands of gravity and blah, 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 blah. Like, no, you still have to coach it really well, because tight people will find a way to stay tight. Tight people will find a way to use tons of tension in their pelvic tilt. They'll find a way to breathe in while using tons of tension, and do arm spirals where they're trying to get that last millimeter of motion using tons of tension. And I think that's not particularly helpful. So yes, lying people down can be helpful for restoring mobility, But tight people find a way to stay tight. So you need to coach them well in a way that shows them you don't need to use as much tension and as much muscle squeezing and bracing to get that movement. You can actually let it go and the movement will come to you much easier. The con of lying people down, and it's a massive con, is that the context isn't there. You lie people down and you think, okay, we're going to restore your mobility this way. But when they stand up, it's a different context. They stand up, and if they do their hinge in a certain way, they're squatting a certain way, they're walking a certain way, that is causing them to tighten up and lose mobility again, because they do it in a way that they brace a lot, and they do it in a way that they squeeze and tense and pull themselves into position a lot, then it's almost irrelevant what you did on the ground, because it's a completely different context. So this is why I've said in a million podcasts, you need to teach people not how to come back in the gait cycle, not how to expand the back of their rib cage and all of this stuff. That stuff is fine, it's helpful, but the people who have that mindset have to keep doing that with their clients. They have to always do breathing drills to help them relax, because they've never taught them how to move forward without driving it through their back, or without extending their knee really early, or without pressurizing their midfoot and pushing from there in a max propulsive position. So you need to create that context. And if you want people to keep their mobility and to keep moving in a nice fluid coordinated way, then you need to, with very tight people, teach them in a upright position, which should be obvious, but unfortunately it's not very obvious to a lot of FRC people. And I like the systems that I'm naming here, by the way, but to a lot of FRC people, like, okay, do your cars, do your joint rotations for the rest of your life every single day. Not a bad idea, but the reason they keep getting tight in the first place is because they're moving in a way that is, they're not actually using their range of motion all of the time. They're not bending their knee when they walk, or they're extending it really early. Or a much better example is they're not extending their hip. When they walk, when they run, they lack hip extension, and they don't have the context to create hip extension when they walk and when they run. And it's because it's a coordination and a motor control thing. It's not a mobility problem. They don't have the mobility there, but it's because of how they do these movements. So you can keep working on hip extension for the next 10 years. And like, this isn't just a theoretical thing. Dario, if you go and follow Dario Cezanne Training on Instagram, Dario is a very good coach, really strong guy, had done all the drills and all of this stuff for a long time. And we did a couple of sessions online, and like, he's astounded with his hip extension. He said he can't even feel a stretch now. He can go into like the deepest couch stretch type of thing, and all of these huge split squat variations where his leg is so far behind him. And we opened up his hip extension so much just through a few simple drills, and his hip flexion, and actually changed how his neck moved and all of this stuff, just through a few simple things where we could create context around this is hip extension when you move. And then his body started to use that in all of his gym movements, not just use it, like he still had to focus on using it, but his body, he knew now how to actually access these movements in his gym movements, in his running, in his plyometrics, without having to like dump into his spine all of the time. And guess what? His hip extension is better than it has been for in years of trying to do drills to improve hip extension, like isolated drills. So the problem with lying people on the floor is it lacks context. The good thing about the floor is, to me, it's not that it reduces gravity and allows people to relax. That is a nice little bonus. But the good thing about the floor is it actually gives you awareness of your body. It gives you more awareness, much more awareness, because if you lie on your back, you can feel what parts of your spine are touching the floor. The floor is there for you to feel, and it actually drives awareness up. And awareness is definitely something that you can carry with you when you go and stand, when you go and run, when you go and jump. Awareness. I've seen a lot of amazing coaches, really good coaches, and what I've noticed is they coach by feel. I've seen brilliant sprint coaches, and I've been lucky enough to work with cool athletes, and they take feelings with them. If we're doing a drill, let's say an ankle dribble, a knee dribble, something like that, it's not that people think, oh, does this drill have transfer over to sprinting? Like, not directly, no. But does drinking your protein shake after you go and do squats have direct transfer over to playing football? No, but it can be something that is assisting the overall picture. And what you can use when you use drills is you can create feelings, and then you can ask people to search for that feeling when they go and sprint, when they go and run, when they go and do other things. And that is something, when people talk about internal and external cueing and all of this stuff, I think they miss the picture of sometimes you just need to give someone a feeling and allow them to take that feeling with them. And I know in some of those people that talk about internal and external cues, like sometimes they're talking about giving them a feeling, but I still think that this is for another podcast, to be honest. I still think that they miss the whole picture around it's an awareness that you're trying to create, and they can take that awareness with them. So for me, to just circle back, because I've gone all over the place, the demands of gravity reducing, is that why it can be so helpful to restore mobility when you lie them on the ground somewhere? Yes, because they relax, but much more so because when I go in all fours, I have my knees, my feet touching the floor, and my hands touching the floor. I have so much awareness and feedback coming back to me that I don't probably have when I go up in standing and do drills in standing. So I think we're using it to drive awareness up, and then you can definitely take that feeling with you. Whereas if you're just trying to focus on, okay, I always lie them on the floor to do their drills because they relax, then you're always going to have to lie them on the floor to do their drills because they only relax really when they lie down. Now, of course, the best way to do it would be to have a drill where they can relax and open up some movement on the floor, and then you just stand them up and do another drill there in standing or in squatting or whatever it is. But I still think it's not that you're trying to make them stay relaxed. It's that you're trying to drive awareness through the roof so they can take that awareness with them, even though the context is very different. So I know I went all over the place there. To be honest, I should have actually thought about that question before I answered it and maybe structured it in bullet points. But this is why you guys are going to have to do our programs, number one, because you'll see how like that works itself out practically, and also come to our workshops and do our mentorship and all of that stuff, because I won't be answering questions like that in a random way. I'll be answering questions in a very, very structured way that ultimately results in very simple, like the sequence I spoke about before. Sequence where I do an exercise. Okay, this person is lacking hip internal rotation and they look like they have more of a tucked pelvis and blah, blah, blah. Like, here's the first exercise I would consider using. Here's the second exercise. Here's the third exercise. And there's the sequence that we would give that type of person. And it's not that it's an algorithmic approach, but there is a strong framework there to say, actually, like, I do think this sequence works well a lot of the time. Don't feel guilty about giving this sequence to a lot of people that present in this way. Don't feel guilty about that and thinking like, oh, everyone needs something different. They don't. They honestly don't. Different people need different people with different presentations need different things, but there's a lot of similar people out there that need a lot of similar things. You just need to know as a coach who does that apply to. But similar things work really well for a hell of a lot of people, so don't feel guilty if you're giving a lot of people similar things. The body, your joints can do certain things. How you coach those things can be different. How you program those things can be different. When you give them those things can be different. But a patellar tendon client, I'm giving them a lot of similar things. Our foot program, it's the same program. Every single person gets it that's bought it. 6,000 people have bought it. They all get the same program and the results are insane. Of course, they will all make their way through it differently and they will all progress at different speeds, and some exercises will be more potent than others for certain people, but like the results are pretty crazy and not that dissimilar for most people. Most people end up with more foot and ankle mobility, more strength around the calves, more awareness of where their lower body is in space, more control over their ankle in eversion and inversion and tibial rotation. They end up with more knee flexion and extension. They end up springier when they do the plyo stuff. So and I'm not saying that's exclusive to our work. It's the same for everyone. People don't need that much different things. You just as a coach need to know when, who, why. But like, don't feel guilty about giving a lot of people similar things. Okay, the last question. Will I answer this now? No, I'm going to save that for the next podcast where we talk about the person with back pain and working on pronation and delaying the extension. Why did it help? I'm going to answer that in a way of like, let's talk about those things, not just like, why did it help your back pain? I don't know. Let's talk about why we might choose some of those things for someone with back issues, for a certain type of person. So I think that's the end of the episode 107. Check out that video on YouTube that I mentioned, opening the chest and the abs, anterior expansion. I'm going to give YouTube a little push for the next while. I said like on an episode a year ago, 2 years ago, that like I do think YouTube is the way forward, to be honest. For us, we just haven't put that much attention into it. But like, I don't see Google going away anytime soon, because I have shares in Google, stocks in Google. I think Google, now there is a potential that Google are going to be broken up as a company into, like, certain parts of Google are going to have to be probably sold off, because it looks like because they do have a humongous monopoly at the moment on search, on advertising. Well, I won't say monopoly on advertising, because Facebook have it, Amazon have a lot of advertising as well, but they have a humongous monopoly on a lot of different things, and they're probably going to get broken up. But I still think that YouTube is just huge. It's just going to keep getting bigger and bigger. And if you are someone that has maybe worked on Instagram for a while, or has done a good job on one of those short form content platforms, then YouTube is probably the next place to go. And ultimately, that's what we're going to try and build out more and more and more of. And we've slept on it for quite a while, but I'm going to try and push in that direction. So make sure you're subscribed to YouTube. Make sure you've got our foot and ankle and Achilles program, lower body basics 1 and 2, core basics, upper body basics, DGR Interactive. We're up to 1,100 people on our membership site now, and that's going really well. I did a good video last time about tall kneeling breathing. It was about 20 minutes long, so check that out. And apart from that, give the podcast a share for me if you enjoyed it. I know I was all over the place, but then again, I do say that every single time. And I need to go and film the HIP program and program it and all of that stuff, so keep an eye out for that very soon. Apart from that, great to chat to you guys, talk to you guys soon.